Hey everyone, welcome back to the RePHIL studio. This is your host, SB Philosopher. This is your weekly Bandori podcast giving you the best up-to-date information on upcoming news and updates to the game and franchise, as well as get insight from prominent community members sharing their experiences and stories about the game. As always, feel free to check out our website, links in the description below, to learn on how you could support the podcast by either joining the YouTube membership program down below or by subscribing to my Twitch channel. All Filler Nation members can join the Discord to hear these podcast recordings live when they're happening, but as always, anyone could join a fun-loving community in the Discord and interact with special guests featured here, so look forward to seeing you there. So this will actually be the final podcast episode of 2021. It's been an amazing project that I've been really proud of doing for this past year. This episode will be the last of the year, and I do look forward to doing more tweaks and more adjustments and hear from you on what I could do to further improve this podcast for 2022. But before I talk about sort of upcoming ideas I might have and upcoming plans we have for the RePHIL studio in the future, I do want to, of course, talk about our usual weekly news corner, as well as have our special guests join us shortly afterwards. So let's get right down to it. The weekly news corner. All right, and this could be one of our last weekly news corners of the podcast. But there's some pretty interesting news on JPdori as well as ENdori that we're going to share. So let's get right into it. So right now, the current event, which actually isn't happening right now in JPdori, but it's going to happen actually in just a few hours, or most likely will be happening by the time you listen to this podcast. But it's finally RePHIL Bandori 2. So RePHIL Bandori 2 is going to round out the final event for 2021 in JPdori. And again, a lot of RePHIL fans have been really, really excited about this event. At the time of this recording, I still don't know who will be the focus characters of the event for the 4-star focus for the gacha, as well as the attribute. I am not really sure exactly when what information of that is. It should be out actually by the time the podcast is live, but at least at the time of this recording, I actually don't know all that information. But regardless, for JPdori fans, this will be a huge boon to have RePHIL Bandori 2 round out the year. Now, to my knowledge, there actually isn't any other sort of live streams or any other information for the time being. If there is one, I'll probably do a separate video on the side in the future to talk about maybe perhaps some new cover songs in the end of the year, or perhaps some really big exciting events that might happen at the start of the year. But for the time being, that's not information I have right now either. But again, if there is, I'll have a separate video to talk about it. So for the time being, JPdori, RePHIL Bandori 2, that's all I got. And it's going to be a really great fitting end to the year. ENdori, surprisingly, there's not too much I need to discuss either about it, because we're finally getting back onto schedule. So the Doremi Hello Happy World collab event has finally ended, and we're now going to Bandori 3 of Afterglow, which is One of Us. So when the weekly news corner first started, One of Us was supposed to happen, and it didn't. And then pretty much after a whole season of the RePHIL Studio podcast, and on our final episode, I could now finally proudly say that One of Us is in ENdori right now. And it's actually a pretty long event. It's an 8-day event, and there's a competition going on right now. So this is going to be a really exciting event for those Afterglow fans. So I'm really happy for them. Finally, the wait is over, and no more sort of these memes of ENdori not being able to do what they got to do. And of course, according to the data mines, the next event after Bandori 3 Afterglow is actually going to be Bandori 3 Pasta Palace. So there's not going to be any breaks. They're just going to go mission lives over and over and over again. Title Idol is going to be the next event after, thanks to the data mines that were revealed the sort of collab, or not the collab, the login campaign for this particular Bandori 3. So Title Idol is going to be the next event. And I am greatly looking forward to the fact that Title Idol is going to be in the game very soon, because I was a little bit worried that they may delay it, or perhaps there's some issues, but it seems like everything is now finally good to go, and we're going to be back to schedule. So after Title Idol, it should be Terrible Horror Night, which is the Roselia. It should be another Mission Live event. So again, a lot of Mission Live events throughout the this month and going into next month. So that's just kind of how it is, and it looks like ENdori is finally going back to schedule. One thing I do want to mention as part of an interesting discussion point is that in the Hello Happy World collab, they didn't actually have T50 titles and T300 titles, T500 titles, even though the Welcome to Our Shrine event did. So they kind of reduced the amount of titles that were available, which was a little bit strange. And this one in One of Us is actually no different. They actually still have the old titles where there's no top 50 or top 300, for example. So the discussion I had previously in a previous episode, I guess that doesn't hold true. ENdori did decide to just stick with the old assets, which at the time in JPdori, they did not have top 50s and these other titles. So unfortunately, with One of Us as well as Title Idol, there won't be these T50, T300, etc. titles. So they're going to be coming back at Terrible Horror Night. And then after that, again, the schedule is going to go back to normal. And, not too much to discuss there, right? Because now the schedule is going back to normal, although events will be shortened as usual, right? There's still going to be the 6-day average in terms of duration. Perhaps the band stories are going to be a little bit longer to give a bit more time for fans to appreciate the band story 3s. But for the most part, it looks like everything's sort of now back to track, and we are going back on schedule. So, I think this is just a really fitting end to the episode. The fact that ENdori finally kind of got everything settled. If you look back at all the episodes I had before, it was me basically talking about, ENdori being so incompetent for the entire time, and it seems like we're finally kind of going back to a new normal when it comes to ENdori's scheduling and planning. So yeah, so that's really all I could say about ENdori. There's also a Christmas campaign in terms of stars, where some stars are cheaper. So if you do want to buy stars in order to get a miracle ticket, which again, the miracle ticket is available until January 10th, to choose a 4-star of your choice, you could certainly do so if that is to your liking. But yeah, so that's all I really have to say for ENdori, right? We've already talked so much about all the problems it has, and I imagine there's still going to be a lot of problems in the future. For instance, with the implementation of things like the Medley Live, or perhaps the new anniversary. Like, how will that work, right? Well, will the anniversary rewards happen actually at the anniversary of ENdori, which is in April, or perhaps will that get pushed earlier? Who knows? But either way, that's basically all I have for ENdori. So, the weekly news corner, short time this time around. To be honest, I want to do some more tweaks on the RePHIL studio, and this is sort of an aside from the weekly news corner. I want to be able to further update the format, and perhaps there'll be some other future tweaks to the project as time comes when 2022 rolls around. So before I do any tweaks, I would like your feedback. So feel free to let me know in the comments below, what did you like about all the episodes of the RePHIL studio thus far. I also have a feedback form, which is in the description below. You can fill out that feedback form if you have any suggestions on what we could do to improve the podcast. And 2022, I think, is going to be a really exciting time for this podcast. I have a lot of very interesting plans to announce that I want to do moving forward, and that could also include format changes and perhaps some new segments into the podcast. maybe not just the weekly news corner, and it could be completely different segments. Who knows? But again, let me know what you would like to see, maybe, and other feedback that I would like to share. All feedback is greatly appreciated, and I do look at the feedback, and I look at all the responses I got on the feedback form in the past, and that's sort of how I was able to build this show up to now. So again, for those who have been listening and have listened to every single episode so far, I greatly appreciate your support, and I do look forward to giving you more exceptional content in the RePHIL studio when it comes next year. So let's hop on to the other side of the studio, where we'll welcome our final guest of 2021 to the RePHIL studio. Can't wait to speak with him and share and learn from his stories. So look forward to see you all there. Let's go. Want to support the RePHIL studio? Check out our website. Links in the description below. Here you can learn more about the podcast as a whole, as well as complete our feedback form to give comments about how we can improve the project, as well as suggest any future special guests that you would like to see on the studio. You can also learn more about how you could support the podcast by joining the Filler Nation, either through a Twitch subscription or joining the YouTube membership below. Thanks again to the Filler Nation members for your constant support, and a reminder that all Filler Nation members can access the podcast live when they are recording in the Unga Academy Discord server. We hope to see you there. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the studio. Let's RePHIL to 99. We have our next special guest joining us at the studio today as our final episode of the year. So, Aquaa, you have the great privilege of being the last guest of the year in 2021. And just a brief intro before we begin. Aquaa here has gotten most notably T1 in the Etude to Spread Our Wings Morphotica event, as well as many other tiering achievements, as well as very recently getting rank 300 in Bang Dream. So Aquaa, again, thank you so much for taking the time to join the studio today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm very honored to be the last guest.
All right.
For 2021.
Anything else you would like to add to that intro?
No, I mean, I was gonna say rank 300, but you did it for me, so there you go. Appreciate it.
Yep. It's a very recent and new achievement you got. So we'll definitely talk about that very briefly in a bit. But before that, again, usually when I have the guests over, I like to ask them specifically about how they got into Bang Dream, because, you know, this is a Bang Dream podcast. So, Aquaa, how did you hear about the series and how did you get into here?
It's kind of a weird thing. I used to be in a different community. Have you ever heard of Pokemon Masters?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that not really good Pokemon gacha game. But yeah, I used to be really involved in that community, and after a while, I started hearing all this talk about Bandori and a group of friends who were all playing it, and then I don't know what really happened, but somehow I just kind of told myself I was gonna download the game and then be better than every one of them, and then it kind of just spiraled from that into, oh, it's really good music, and then, oh, his cards look nice, and then fast forward 2 years, and now I'm I spent a little bit of money on this game. Okay. Just a little bit.
And to give it a context, when was that? When was it when you first downloaded the game?
Oh, that was in March of 2020.
Yes. Okay. All right. So when you first got into the game, of course, at first you're like, okay, I just want to do this with as a friendly competition against other people in the other community you had. But you mentioned again the cards looked nice, the music was nice, which sort of convinced you to stay. But what were your favorite characters and band at the time? And obviously, how did that change as time went?
Oh, it was all about Poppin' Party and Arisa. Yeah. Like the first, in the tutorial, the first time I started, I'm like, oh, she looked nice. And then it kind of was like, oh, I like her personality, because I related to her personality a little bit. The sort of shy but serious nature, and then, I love Twin Tails, so it always kind of fit together.
And again, has your opinion or your favorite character or band changed? Or is it still, rocking the Poppin' Party right now?
Besides Morphonica, I'd say honestly kind of, yeah. I know I used to not be so big on Eve, but then I kind of changed after a few months. But besides that, it's been kind of the same. And Sakushi, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really, again, it's quite interesting that you kind of got into the game around the same time where Morphonica also got introduced to the game. So you're both coming together to join Bang Dream Girls Band Party. So that was a pretty nice coincidence that you're able to not only join the game at the same time as Morphonica, but also eventually tier for an event for them as well. So yeah.
It always kind of annoyed me how much hate they were getting initially.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I'll give them a chance, and then here we are.
Oh, so you were kind of aware of the weird kind of backlash that they had for whatever reason, but
yeah, I thought it was dumb, like really just unnecessary.
Yeah. Stan Morphonica. Morphonica's great. So
honestly,
yeah. So based on Aquaa, based on what you said, right? When you joined the game, you wanted to prove to the people that you were better than them. So I think that competitive spirit kind of leaned and kind of put yourself into the tiering spirit, I imagine, as well, because tiering is also a place where you could show that you are the best out of other people. So how did you get into tiering?
Honestly, it's kind of a bit of a blur now. I remember seeing like the because I want to get top 100 first because I want to see what it was like, and I saw like for Smile Patrol, that event was Happy World for the attribute and band, obviously, and I was like, oh, I have a pretty good team for this, and so I went for that, and then after a little bit of kind of like experiencing that, I'm like, oh, this is a little bit, it's kind of monotonous, but it's fun in a weird way. Like, it's really hard to explain the draw of tiering, and I guess I was just looking through future events on BestDori, and I was like, oh, this Poppin' Party Halloween event looks pretty cool, and I have a good card for this. I'll go for top 10, and it kind of just evolved into I can go for podium now, and then there's a whole thing from that.
That's kind of crazy because, like, again, like when people first think about get tiering and trying to get something that they want, right, they kind of like take baby steps, but as you can as many people could quickly tell, you definitely jumped the gun and really went very quickly through
like more than I expected.
Which is also kind of how you ended up getting rank 300, which right now for our viewers who are unfamiliar, rank 300 is the highest rank that you could get right now in terms of level in the game with the amount of experience you get. And Aquaa, I think with you getting rank 300, that's probably like probably the fastest anyone has gotten rank 300 like ever.
It's definitely up there. There's actually, I think there was at the first year of the game, there was someone, I forgot his name. It's like Open Man or something.
Okay.
He got 300, I think, like after like 6 months or something ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Like that. Yeah. And then also,
you getting it in like less than 2 years is pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely an achievement. Even though Limo as well hit 300 films before me, and she actually has a higher ID than I do, like player ID.
Well, shout outs to Limo, who is currently tiering right now. Or actually, she just finished because
I think she parked now, 52 million.
Yeah, crazy, absolutely nuts. But big shout outs to her. But yeah, Aquaa, when you got that up to rank 300, and again, it was literally today that you got that rank 300. How did you feel about that?
It felt in some ways like, I guess, a weight was lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Because like now I don't really need to play the game as much, but it is definitely weird seeing like just the max EXP, because I feel like so long it was just feel like out of reach. And then I had planned to get it this month with F Terrible Horror Night was this month, because we obviously don't know the schedule. And then I saw the 10x EXP for 3 Flaming. I'm like, oh, I'll just give it now. But yeah, it's definitely pretty surreal, but very, very glad it's over.
Yeah. So was that always a goal of yours? When did that start? Like when did that journey towards getting rank 300 start? Like when did you decide, oh, I'm going to try and get rank 300 as quickly as possible?
I guess for a while it's kind of a side thing. I remember hitting 200 during Poppy and thinking that was pretty cool. And then after a while of doing a couple events, like NR2, Sunnyside, and then during the summer, those 3 events I did, I was kind of like, I think I ended Etude at like 286. I was like, oh, I might as well just finish it out at some point this year.
Mm-hmm.
But took a little bit longer than I intended, but still, it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, like because despite you joining into the game really, relatively late compared to other people, the fact that again you tiered so many different kind of events within that time span really sort of accelerated that journey towards rank 300. So tiering does that, right? If you play the game so much, you're gonna rank up so quickly that eventually you're gonna get that 300. Now, of course, the gaps are a little bit. It's not as like some people when they think about going up to rank 300, right? They think it's like a very consistent pace, but very quickly you realize that the gap between every level, especially near that last end, near the end, is challenging, right?
Yeah, I mean it kind of like stays. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I guess like the last like 10 ranks, it takes about 9 sets per rank for the last 10. But I feel like in some ways it's not so bad. It's just the consistency of it, having to keep doing 9 sets per level. It's just like, oh, it's such a drag sometimes if you're not constantly tiering.
Yeah. So if you're not tiering, going up those levels could definitely feel quite exhaustive. And I think one person mentioned, I forgot who, but I think it was like somewhere between between rank 0 and rank like 200. Was it 40 something or somewhere in
I think like 42, I think.
Yeah, where it's like that's like kind of like one half, and then the other half is like literally from that side all the way to the end. So like for me, like I'm not even at like rank 240 yet, and I'm like, oh, that's only like halfway through 300. Like, I can't imagine getting that.
Of course, part of that's just because like the first like 100 ranks are just nothing, Get those 2 nat flaming.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, again, it's really interesting how it all kind of led to get one way or another, right? You kind of got into tiering, which then helped you play the game more, and obviously then playing the game more means you ranked up quicker, and then eventually, again, as you see, you get rank 300 so quickly in such a short amount of time. And again, big congrats on that. You're like one of 20 people, I think, on ENdori.
I have no idea. It's definitely a small number though.
Yeah, it's a small group of people. I think it's about 20 ish people that have rank 300. It could be a lot more because I think the last time I saw that this number was like less than 20, but there could be a lot more, especially with more people tier. So yeah, big shout outs to you being in that rank 300. Going back to tiering, because again, obviously how you got to the rank 300 was just all the tiering you did. So, when you first tiered, were you kind of already implementing yourself in like tiering servers, or did you pub a lot of things and then eventually found a tiering server and joined the community from there?
I remember asking around Pubcord and CNZ, that server, about Poppywing, and I eventually was led to Shades' server. And so that's how I got into that. And then from there, pretty much I didn't really join much servers. I very much recall, what was it? Slow Summer was the first server tier I actually like filled in. But I really did pub a lot of stuff until Poppywing. But Poppywing was all in the server. No, I didn't like pub hero or anything like that.
So maybe talk a little bit more before we talk about Poppywing. Let's talk a little bit more about CNC. I know we have some CNC viewers out there, but maybe briefly describe what CNC is like.
Obviously, I took kind of a step back from Bandori in some ways. I mean, not entirely, obviously, but when I was in the server for a while, and it's a very chill community. It's very kind of just like, what's the word to describe it? Just, I wouldn't say low key, but very just kind of just, it's very pleasant. And it actually started out as like a group chat that when I asked to join, Ren, the owner, was like, oh, I was making an entire server. And then it kind of, he, invited people and stuff, and it grew from that. That was back around Smile Patrol, actually. Was when CNC became a thing. And yeah, it's kind of where I spent a lot of my initial Bandori time, was in that server and Pubcord. But eventually I kind of, venture into other servers and stuff in other parts of the community. But very, very appreciative of those initial days.
Yeah, it's like sort of the head start, right? When you're going from another community of Pokemon masters, and you're trying to see what other communities are out there, and usually for a lot of people, Pubcord, right, the official Bang Dream Discord, or just smaller servers at the beginning, they're a good place to start, right? And it's great that they were so welcoming to you, especially as a newer player, right? And getting into the swing of things. So let's talk a little bit more about that T10. So Poppyween, the Poppin' Party Halloween event, that was your first ever T10 up, right?
Yeah, it was also the first podium, surprisingly.
Okay. So let's talk about that first, Aqua. Like how. So you already talked about how you felt like you already had the cards, and you felt like you had the necessity to necessary resources to go for it. But what really ultimately motivated you to say, you know what, I'm going to go for at least the top 10 title in this event?
I guess it kind of does go back to that sort of competitive spirit. Like, not necessarily want to be the best, because obviously T10 and all that isn't really that, it's good, obviously, but it's nothing crazy. But yeah, I think it's just kind of like the sort of wonder of it, because it seems so like out of reach at the time, like prior. Like, oh, like this could be special to me, that I have this title and I can, it's sort of like a tangible goal almost. And yeah, the very just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just the wonder of it, pretty much, that it boils down to.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I also imagine the fact that it featured Arisa, right, as one of the main focus unit characters.
Arisa Sai was one of my favorite duos for Poppin' Party.
Exactly. So, I think there's a lot of things that boiled back down and really helped solidify that you wanted to go for that event. So then you did the preparations, right? And like, again, being a newer tier, right? And again, and that's just your first big tiering event. Were there any sort of points where you were just unsure of, and you were like not sure exactly what you're supposed to do, and how did you sort of prepare, and especially for being your first tiering event?
Yeah, it was definitely very scary. Before the event, I was definitely just very anxious. Like, I'm not sure how this is going to go down. Mm-hmm. I heard talk about being going to be a woke event because it was limited and all that. Mm-hmm. And I was very just unsure. I think what I kind of told myself was just to keep playing. Obviously, that's pretty obvious, but I just kind of went for just like a nice, solid, basically go as long as I could for the first tiering session, which definitely was pushing myself, because my longest like playing session, quote unquote, was I think 7 hours before that. Mm-hmm. And I actually, for the first couple hours of the event, I was actually like outside at a bonfire, and so I was tiering at a bonfire. Just kind of like trying to like, don't talk to me, please. Don't judge me for what I'm doing right now. But it all worked out, thankfully. And yeah, as the event went on, it definitely became very much more chill and manageable.
That's actually super funny. Just be like randomly like with people around and all around like a nice warm fire, and just like, oh, don't touch me, I'm playing Unite from A to Z.
But I wanted to make sure I didn't want to like be behind to start the event. That would have been the worst thing for me, like mentality wise. But yeah. It was pretty dumb.
Did you find it was a bit of a learning curve that joining a tiering server and then having all the rules and all these meta strats and all that?
I definitely felt like I was a bit kind of just not necessarily a burden, but I felt like I was kind of in the way when asking questions and stuff, and trying to get a spot that I was like, kind of pushing my way in there. But I mean, I kind of already knew a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. I guess the only thing that really was kind of I messed up was at the start of the event. Obviously, I did gotcha, and I was kind of a few minutes late to the start of the tiering room. But I don't know. Besides that, it was pretty. I got the hang of it pretty fast, I'd say.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned how asking questions, you don't want to feel like you're a burden to people, but at the same time, right, for newer tiers, especially for people like you at the time, me at the time, and many viewers at the time when they first start tiering. You really don't know until you ask, right? So it's always important to just shoot your shot. If you're a newer tier, it doesn't hurt to shoot your shot, right? Ask questions, right? Get comfortable, and especially with you, Aqua. You asked for a roster spot, which ended up being a podium spot, which is probably honestly amazing that you were able to ask that and be able to get that position from the server. So I imagine that was definitely at least like one aspect you're like, wow, I'm actually able to get that podium spot and try to go for it.
That kind of amplified the whole like wonder and mystification of it. It was like, this is a second place, really? Like, it was very just awe-inspiring to have that and to go for it.
Now, did the fact that it was like, what was it a 12-day event? Did that
it was a 12-day event.
You?
It did, only because I had only requested time off work for 8 days.
Oh.
And so I kind of had to juggle working and the last 4 days of the event, which didn't go so well, but thankfully it all leveled out. But that definitely was not very enjoyable to discover. We didn't even know that. It was like the 24-hour like tweet thing they do. That was when we discovered it was 12 days. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. That was the time of the year. Like, again, that was like late 2020 when there wasn't necessarily any schedule like issues, but like they love to do this weird like 12-day, 6-day kind of this sort of weird schedule where some events were 12 and the other days were 6, right? A couple of days later or a couple of events later was Devotedly Towards My Dream, which was also a 11 or 12-day event. It was really weird, but I mean, again, long events, you kind of have to go longer, but again, luckily I think the last few days of the event definitely probably were a lot chiller, right? So you didn't miss too much from having to work there, though, right?
Yeah, like T10 was actually pretty chill. Etude at the time, I think, was still new to the game, even though he had experience in other games. He filled a lot at the start and kind of just like gate kept T11, and so no one really tried sniping it. But Podium for a while was actually pretty contested because it was Pills, me, Homie Dixon, and Sydney. And we were kind of all four going for that. And then eventually Sydney dropped out, and then Homie said he was going to go for 20 mil, but eventually decided I'm just going to stop at 16. And so it was only to like, the last 5 days or 4 days or something that it actually kind of started to settle down. Which ironically was the extension part of it, was 4 days.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that probably also caused a bit of stress as well, right? The fact that Pills got you on for Podium, but you may have not even gotten Podium with that competition in hand, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Oh man.
It was definitely the first 30 hours per did was like just trying to stay ahead, like throughout everything.
Jeez, wow, that's crazy. But again, you were able to get your first title, which is amazing. Like, and again, being a T2 at that, it was like, wow, like amazing. And that really kind of kickstart your guerrilla career, because a lot of people, when we see people tiering and they get the achievements, we could kind of tell like who is going to be someone that we're like, okay, this guy's gonna be pretty notable in the future. I imagine you're definitely someone that people kept a watch of because of your performance in Poppy Weed, and then soon after in many other events afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. I remember Pills in his like thank you letter. What stuck with me about that was how he said like he was very glad to see like new members get into the tiering community. That kind of was like like made me feel a little bit special in some ways. Like I did it.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we are quite welcoming to new players, and especially seeing new people kind of get into the mix, right? As much as we love to support like all the veterans, all the people with their titles, it's always nice to see the new blood and kind of get in there and try to stir some competition up, and it's really fun to see and really good to see the growth. So again, Aqua, that was really great to hear about that T2. Is there anything else you want to add about that? Was there anything else notable, like other than the bonfire tiering or whatnot?
I guess the only thing is like there was a bit of stress I kind of had in the server because obviously we still had a T3 spot, and jokingly what they did, I'm not sure if it was Shades or Pills who wrote it, but they said it was a fight between Matsuri and Dean for T3. And apparently that was a joke, and I didn't know that. So the first like 3 days, I was thinking I was have to keep ahead of them as well, without knowing that it was just I think it was just Dean who ended up eventually dropping for T3, but that definitely didn't help at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A little bit of interesting communication gaps there, and of course, without tiering servers, right? Especially without tiering servers, it makes tiering a lot more uncertain. A lot of people maybe are also like not too sure about one of the main reasons to simply admit tiering servers are also kind of made to hopefully manage resources well, and not necessarily have to spend as much as you need to, because as much as we look like we have infinite amount of money and time for our tiering, it really isn't the case. So
yeah, definitely not.
So the better we could do to save in terms of time, in terms of resources, the better that everyone is happy. So
yeah, like time for sure, though. Just the efficiency helps us so much.
100%. So, between Poppyween and, of course, your T1 and Etude, there was probably some time for you to decide, I want to go for a T1 for an event. But before even that, did you have any other event accomplishments, like some T10s in the middle? I think you had quite a few, right?
I had a couple. In between Siren and Poppyween, I had actually a back-to-back T10 podium with NR3, which was completely unplanned, and then Sunnyside, which was my top 3 event.
Wow, that's crazy. Again, like back-to-back as well. That's just shows. I think I remember that. Yeah, it was quite a big accomplishment. Going back-to-back like T10s plus is obviously a big time commitment. So I think that also leads to the point where it's like, okay, well, I have a T2 and now I have a T3, so it kind of makes sense that you kind of have to complete the set, right? You have to complete the set.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you can't just stop there.
Of getting that T1.
Just a reminder that all special guests featured in the RePHIL studio can be found in the Unga Academy Discord server. Links in the description below. Join our great community who's very passionate about Bang Dream, tiering, and many other interests. And we have weekly community events as well as contests for people to complete through challenges. Of course, all Filler Nation members can access the podcast live when they're recording in this Discord server as well. So we hope to see you there.
When did you decide Etude was going to be your dream T1, and why specifically Etude?
It was actually, I actually forgot about this. It was, I think, somewhere in July, which was when it came in JP of 2020. So July or August of 2020, which obviously is before I even had a T10 plus or anything like that. A lot of it does come down to Morphonica being I wanted to kind of show them support when they came to the EN server. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want them to be Morphonica's dead and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then it kind of grew because obviously Flame of Hope is one of my favorite songs of theirs, obviously. Oh, yeah. And it's a banger. And so that so definitely, I'm very musically based when it comes to events. Flame of Hope is one, Hello Wink is a banger. Song I Am, it's these songs that kind of give life to all these events, and it makes it more fulfilling to tier them. And so Flame of Hope was definitely a big part in that. And then, of course, the story I thought was really nice. It kind of had a nice little Sakushi moment, as well as Toko sort of proving to Rui that she can actually play the parts that are written. Just an overall nice, most Bandori stories aren't really anything insane, but it was a nice little fun story to have. Inspiring in some ways.
Definitely. So when you saw that event and you're like, okay, I think I want to show my devotion for Morphonica and I want to give them my support and go for T1. So what did you do in preparation for to tier for Etude? What were sort of again? Well, you already prepared for a T2 before, but I think that the preparation for a T1, especially for a band that at the time of July 2020 in ENdori didn't even exist.
So,
Yeah.
how did those preparations differ from your T2?
It was definitely a lot more stressful, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Having to make your own server and stuff. It's a lot harder than it seems. I promise. It's definitely not the easiest thing in the world. But I kind of just made the server and then would advertise it and then just kind of hope people wanted to tier. And thankfully, it all worked out. I got a pretty decently sized roster at the end of the day. Maybe honestly a little bit too big, but unfortunately, there was 3 pub snipers at event, which honestly was caught completely off guard by that. I didn't think there would be.
Yeah, but pub core people who do it outside of a tiering server and like through their own means, certainly very respectable as well, because again,
Oh yeah, for sure.
you don't get the same efficiency, but again, you may have the really strong team, you may be still pretty efficient regardless, and getting a title in T10 outside of means is certainly very admirable as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when I know, again, when I spoke with you about helping you like promote the server as well, like you were kind of a last minute doing some preparations, and it was like literally like I think it was like 12 hours before you're like, all right, the server is finally ready, let's get going, and let's get started. But so like how was it like managing a server, right? Because again, I guess I don't really ask this too much to our T1 tiers, but how is it managing a server but also tiering at the same time? Like how is that like the challenge of balancing that?
Honestly, a lot of it was Houdini and RC and some other mods I had just kind of locking things down. They did an insanely good job. I can't thank them enough for all the help they gave me throughout Etude. But there was some stuff like the whole what was it again, like the DN clan or something, and the TikTok kids and all that all started in that server, and that was definitely a bit of a situation.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask what exactly happened because I didn't get all the deets, but I'm at the same time I'm like super curious. So to give a bit of context for our viewers out there, I kind of have the context to start because it kind of rooted from me. So basically, at the time, I was helping various T1s, trying to help promote their server to our lovely Unga Academy, who has amazing members in there. But at one point during the event, someone posted my server link in TikTok, which I was not aware of. I didn't know, and I didn't give them permission to do that. No super harm foul done, but again, that's just kind of how it happened. What ended up happening was people were joining the server by basically like almost like the hundreds. Honestly, it was kind of crazy. So I was like, where did all these people come from? And they all, and at the end of the day, were joining your server, Aquaa ASC, in order to maybe get some, their 15 minutes of fame of trying to get curiosity of the tiering servers and trying to join the community. But maybe you can continue the story from here. You certainly met some interesting characters, though, right?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a weird situation because it didn't happen until a couple days into the event. And I kept seeing just people joining the server, and they wouldn't really do anything. They would just kind of just be in the server. I think a couple of them might have tried joining a team room. I have no idea. I don't necessarily know anything. I know there was like some talk about how people from TikTok were like, "Oh, ASC is like this so super exclusive club, and I want to join them," and that people were like idolizing me and Nova or something. I definitely don't know everything about it, but eventually we decided, we're just going to kick every person that we don't recognize, which actually kind of backfired because there were some people that were caught in the crossfire of that. But they were invited back, and we eventually locked it down, and things kind of turned out okay. But just super, like, it could have been a lot worse, for sure.
I see. Oh, I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard there were some people causing some havoc in the chats, like, not behaving very well, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. That's
It's
fair.
possible that that was, and then that some mods just like took care of it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
Which would definitely make sense because obviously I was busy focusing on tiering. Go figure.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But again, for our viewers out there, learning about tiering communities, it's very interesting, and I was really, it was great to see so many people, be interested in tiering and wanting to learn more about the tiering community. But of course, tiering community, tiering server, there's also some levels of I guess boundaries you have to learn when it comes to tiering in terms of efficiency, because that's always very important, but also like you should also be a respectful individual, right? Be a nice person. And from what I've heard, there were instances where some people were not being really nice, which was a little strange. But again, maybe I'll have to bring Houdini back to the studio to ask, ask about those stories, because again, you were so busy A2Zing that you didn't really
inquire her about
mind. Yeah, you didn't really pay much mind. So but overall though, like, did you find that T1 experience to be maybe your most difficult event ever, or perhaps this was actually one of the more chill events?
I would say yes to that. Unfortunately, there was an event right before that called Railgun that exists, and that definitely proved to be a little more challenging. But it's definitely up there, just because of just how tired I was, and then all of the shenanigans of having to run the server and make sure things were going smoothly.
Yeah, you were like tearing for Railgun, and then you're like, oh, I have to like build my server now. I have to like finalize my server and get people get started on the next event. And then you were tearing for that, like already like probably super tired and sleep deprived from the previous event, because Railgun was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, just a little bit. Because I thought, oh, I'd have a couple days between the end of Railgun and start to actually finish things.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I wanted Railgun to be when I finished the server, and then I couldn't do it because I kept having to tier the event. I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the off event, and then I slept for like almost all the off event, which wasn't very good.
Well, did you like? It seems like you always seem to do a lot of back-to-back events, right? NR3.
I don't know why. It just happens. Like, I guess Craft Egg making the events decide, hey, this one guy in America, we're just gonna screw him over.
I mean, like, he likes this event. Well, why don't we put this event right after?
I can't wait for next year. What's gonna happen all over again? Not for event tiering, but actually, yes, for event tiering and song tiering, it's like 4 events. It's not gonna be very fun.
Well, I guess that's Bushiroad's way of saying, hey, we want this guy, this Aqua's money, and yeah, we want to make sure that this guy stays and contributes.
It's like oh, you only get tier 3 events this year. The downside, they're all next to each other.
Yeah. crazy. So again, the T1, I imagine, is just a huge relief that you're just able to get that and really show that overall dedication to Morph. And I'm sure that's probably one of your most, if not the most proud achievement you got.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I guess it's like just the excitement of like, I've actually have one. It's kind of similar to like Rank 300 and my first podium, where it's like, it actually happened. Just sort of the almost hard to accept in some ways. But then obviously as time, I just, I put that T1 title on my account and just kind of played as like, this actually did happen. This isn't a dream, it's reality.
Yeah, definitely. You achieved a lot, right? And throughout your very relatively short career in Bang Dream, which I think is a pretty inspiring story for many newer players out there. A lot of people have gotten into the game pretty similar to when you got into it, right? Quite late into the game, and there's many people still getting into the game right now, like new people this year. Hopefully next year we'll even get new people. And to hear someone who in less than 2 years was able to get a triplet of podiums and many more T10s and rank 300, it really shows that, with a little bit of work and dedication, you're able to get many achievements in the game.
A little bit of money. Definitely some of that too. Doesn't hurt.
A little bit of extra whale money goes a little
Yeah,
long way.
just
You
a few
know.
dollars definitely is
Yeah.
required there. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird to think about. Just through my entire, just I guess my history with this game. Because I kind of, for a while, I didn't know really when I was going to stop. And it's kind of just kept evolving. Like, oh, I'll go for this event. And then now I'm kind of like, well, now I got to finish out the full top 10 roster. Like, I have a top 10 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. And so now I need 7 and 9, right? I gotta finish those 2 out. And I do have events planned for that right now. But I think after that happens, I'll be like, okay, I'm done. You'll finally retire from event tiering, at least.
Yeah, at least for event tiering, yeah. But yeah, that's like really interesting. The fact that you were able to again achieve so much in such a short amount of time, and maybe I would like to ask, like, how would you rank your achievements in terms of like what you're most proud of? Like, what would be like, let's say, your top 3 most proudest achievements, in the game?
Well, definitely, my top 1 is going to be up there. I would say just like, I don't know if this counts, but I would say that's the general actually achieving the back-to-back-to-back T10, T10, T1. That's probably like what I would say took the most effort, and I think something that a lot of people would definitely have a hard time doing. But I also think people could easily smash that. I mean, obviously, it's not nowhere near a record, but just... It's a very weird experience for sure. Just having so little rest and basically touring for a month straight is ridiculous. And I'm very, I don't know if proud of myself is the right word, but I'm definitely very happy I managed to pull it off.
Yeah, well, your nightmarish 1 month date with Unite from A2C.
Yeah, like I can't imagine how many times I played that stupid song. Like, it's stuck in my head forever now.
That's honestly amazing. And yeah, just the events as well, right? Not just like, the achievements, but like the events as well. Like, wow, Railgun top 10, especially with what happened there. Wow.
Yeah.
Railgun
and Siren wasn't 10. Like that dead either. Like, it was, I think, a 4G top 10. About.
Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, I'll definitely rank that up there. Poppy Ween would probably be like 2nd or 3rd place, just because it was, 23 million versus live. Even though it was 12 days long, that's still a lot of playing for one event. And of course, being my first event, T10 plus ever, was a little bit, I'd say a decent achievement to get. From there, I guess, I don't know, maybe like my Power of Love T2 would be kind of under that, just because of the ops on that chart were a bit tough, and I managed to get some of them. Well, okay, 1 ops was, but it was very difficult. It kind of just like trickles down, just various, goes on song tiering. I guess, well, my heyday T10 was actually, I'd say it's honestly probably my best song tiering achievement. Because I didn't have optimal for that event. I was missing the cooking class Sugumi. But I managed to get top 10 for heyday in the last like 7 hours of the event, just by brute forcing the song and playing well enough.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah, because song tiering is certainly a much different beast, right? Where, yes, you do have to be really good at the game, but also you have to, as we talked about in plenty podcasts already, the optimizations and just having optimal cards too, right? So
yeah, that can be a lot challenging. I mean, it's easier now with Miracle tickets, but even then, it's just to make it for like more than one event requires some luck for sure and some money.
Crazy. Yeah, exactly. Before we actually dive a bit deeper about a little bit of your, your abilities and capabilities in the game, which also, of course, reflects into song tiering. Again, you mentioned a couple of future plans already, trying to get a T7 or T9 in some events, and a bit of song tiering. Do you mind sharing some of these events, or you still want to have is that still like a work in progress in planning?
Yeah, I can share most. I'm trying to keep a couple events a secret,
for sure.
Just for the fun of it. There's no real reason, but
yeah.
just to have just to make it, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
For event tiering, my T9, I want to be the outside inside Raz event. I've already joined the roster for that, so hopefully no issues there. And I have a decent team. If I get the upcoming Pario 4-star, from FanRoad that'll give me a pretty decent team for that event. So it's kind of like, why not? You know, I have a bunch of cans from this Happy World event as well, the collab. So I shouldn't have too much trouble with that. And then my T7, which should be my last event tier ever, will be the Sailor Popipa event. That'll be, I think, August or July. I have no idea with the speed up. But that'll be my T7, hopefully. And then I actually have another T1 planned with the Morphonica Team Live, which has no steering servers. It is pub only.
Yeah.
Unless EN devs do some weird shenanigans with the game versions, but hopefully they don't.
Yeah.
But that'll be a nice little new experience to try out and see how I can go just pubbing only.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, best of luck. And again, I'm sure that anyone who's viewing this podcast right now and would like to give their support will certainly do so. So all the best in your future events.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one more thing I do want to talk about, Chris, because it's such a really you're such a well-rounded player, especially when it comes to getting into the game so recently. But then not only you have all these podium titles, you have all this rank 300, you have the rank 300, but you're also really damn good at the game. How did you have previous rhythm game experience and did that translate to you getting good in the game in Bandori?
I mean, honestly, not really. I played Geometry Dash in middle school, if that counts at all. I don't think it does, but maybe that has some small effect. No, it's kind of I don't know why. Honestly, I don't want to be all egotistical. I don't really think of myself as that good of a player in this game of people who can, all perfect Rebirth Day or Setsuna Trip Special or something like that. I'm nowhere near that level, obviously, but I do think I have definitely had a steady rise. I recently, I guess I kind of plateaued a little bit, I feel like, but I think as time goes on, I'll get a little bit better, and still a long way to go. But at the start, I did kind of feel like I was a bit sort of progressing a little bit fast. After a month, then I already full combo most 27s and 28s. But I didn't get full game SC until February of this year, I think. And that was Ringing Bloom was my kryptonite for a long time. So even though I kind of did start off running, it eventually took a while. I took a lot of time and grinding to really get to that point, and even more so to get to the point where I'm at today.
Yeah. So again, it's really again, a newer player coming into the game and then suddenly learning the ropes and getting good and improving in the game. What do you think there was a particular thing that you did that made the learning curve much easier to learn all the songs and get better at the game as quickly as possible, or was it just play more?
A little bit of both. I definitely recall when I eventually turned my speed up to 11.0, I had a bit of an easier time getting accuracy. But although I do feel like that's kind of more reaction time based and less actual timing, but I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to doubt it myself. But yeah, honestly, just playing more, just kind of consistently attempting to AP or full combo songs, you eventually get used to how things are supposed to be. You'll kind of learn stuff and just sort of naturally get closer and closer to the goal you want to hit. And after a while, bam, you get it.
Yeah, for sure.
You can finally celebrate.
Definitely. And again, you've mentioned a couple of people already, familiar faces like Houdini, who are all in the QAP group, and I think you're in there as well.
Yeah, I'm one of the most inconsistent people in the QAP server, I would say. I have burdened a lot of QAP attempts.
Oh man. Was there a particular attempt that's memorable to you, either in the worst way or the best way?
Yeah, recently I burdened a Mind of Prominence QAP.
Ooh.
I know there was, back when I was very new to the QAP server, we tried QAP Neo Aspect for a long time. We just could never get it. And I think I burdened that quite a number of times, if I recall. As for achievements, I still haven't gotten, I really want to get a 27 QAP. I'm trying to get Flame of Hope at some point. But there was one time where we kind of just did 3 back-to-back-to-back 26s, and we got all of them first try, and that was pretty fun. I'm pretty like almost surprising that I actually managed to not screw up.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're QAPing, are you like, I imagine you're still like in, voice chatting people, maybe you're like, dicking around and maybe
I've tried
distracting
voice
each
chatting.
other.
Whenever I voice chat with QAP, I tend to do worse, so I've stopped doing that. 'Cause I get distracted.
Yeah.
But it's a very mental game, I'd say, because I try to tell myself if I burden or if I like mess up mid song, like oh well, just get over it, or try to just like calm myself down because I know if I get tilted, it's over. It's GG if I start to get upset.
That's fair. Yeah. So, it's amazing how as I mentioned before, right? Like you're tearing, you got all this, and now you're also slowly getting really good at the game as well with all FC in the game and seeing every song in the game and much more. So do you have any other sort of future projects in that aspect as well, either like maybe like a QAP in the future or maybe what you're going to try and do to continue that FC streak?
Well, I already know for a fact that the full game FC is going to be broken here in a couple months. I definitely want to. I think my current goal in terms of that would be full comboing SP trip, because I definitely think I can do that. It's just a massive pain in the balls, just with how, because honestly the chorus is like the worst part, but the intro and the verse and up to the chorus is so inconsistent because there's so many tricky like slider ticks and random like jacks and stuff that just always catch you off guard and you can easily break combo there. It's like challengingly fun, but definitely can be very annoying. So I think getting that would be a massive accolade to get.
Yeah. Me and you both. Both of us are full game kind of full combo havers right now, but yeah, that's gonna change very soon once a couple of really tricky songs start coming into the game soon. So, I'm praying that I'll be able to do it, but I think it's going to be a long time until I'll be able to get that. So once Sets in the Trip, SP, and Hello Hell, once those get in there, oh man.
honestly, besides those, I still haven't full comboed our special yet.
Oh,
and that chart has given me a lot of pain in the past few months.
Wow. So again, it's gonna be crazy once those SP charts go in there. So, and again, I don't know when that the anniversary related updates are gonna come out because of again the weird schedule changes. They're speeding up everything, but they won't speed up the anniversary, I imagine. But
I hope they do. I honestly hope we just say screw it and we put all the anniversary stuff with Backstage Pass, and then we have like. We can have some like extra Dreamfest or Stars packs or something on April 4th, but I think it would help. It would just be a lot less stressful for everyone involved if we just had it on Backstage Pass. Personally, but who knows what the devs are going to do?
Yeah, we'll monitor that very closely. We'll see how they respond to that. So, all right, but Aqua, before I let you go in this studio, we do have a few questions. No major serious questions for our guests this time around, but our first question from one of our favorite viewers here, Vince, asking you CS:GO.
Oh wow, dude! Yeah, give me about 2 months. I'll hop on.
And of course, Loon asking about your haircut.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, it's I got the haircut, I think in November of last year. And then I took that picture, and that's about it.
Did you get a nice haircut? I enjoyed it.
I have, yes. But believe it or not, I have indeed gotten a haircut. Yeah, I mean that was I wanted to not have. I think at the time I had like have you seen that email where it's like Prelude Rinko, but it's like there's a hand on her like patting her head?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had that in my profile picture. I kind of wanted to change that because it felt a little bit weird to have that. I was like, oh, there's this random picture of me with my face covered. Yeah, there you go. So
and it just kind of stayed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a reason to change it.
Wow, and of course our final question, another familiar face, Houdini, once again asking questions to QAP members, specifically about why are you stale?
You know, the thing about that, I don't even know where that came from. I honestly, I don't know when she started calling me that or as to why. All I know is that I'm not stale, so I don't know.
Yeah,
It's propaganda she's spreading.
I don't know, man. Like it's weird, especially when stale specifically for whatever reason rhymes with whale, and it's like I don't know. It's
Also,
weird.
what is stale water supposed to be? Like, how does that work? It's water. Just purify it.
Well, maybe if we bring again, if we bring Houdini back again, maybe you'll be the one asking these strange questions over. But we'll see.
I'll be sure.
But Aqua, I think this will conclude today's episode with you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and share your experiences and just share all the stories you had, especially from various different perspectives about the game. Do you have anything else you would like to add and you want to say to the viewers, or any shout outs?
Shout outs to H2O, Vince, Toto, and Shubi for listening. And Addy, I think they left earlier.
Yeah.
And just shout outs for Limo's Happy World server for giving me a tier server to fill in and not get voted from top 100. That was very appreciative. And yeah, that's about it.
Great. Well, honestly, again, Aqua, thanks so much for joining in. And of course, everyone who's listening either live right now or perhaps are listening to the podcast on YouTube or other sources, you can join the Anga Academy Discord server if you want to hop on in, join a fun community, and interact with our special guests who are featured in this studio. And of course, you could also follow our guests. And then the links to Aqua's Twitter is in the description, as well as also on the video as well. But with that out of the way, guys, thank you all so much for listening to the final episode of 2021 to the RePHIL Studio. We'll be back next year, and we're going to have a blast when the RePHIL Studio continues. But until then, get your cans ready, stock up, go to Marina's gift box to get those cans ready for the next refill, and we'll see you all next time. So take care, everyone. Happy New Year. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.